You're watching IANS TV, and we're getting you the coverage of the union budget for the financial year 22-23. And right now, let's focus on personal taxation. I'm joined by Sudhakar Sethuraman, partner with Deloitte India. Sudhakar, good afternoon.
Hey, hi, good afternoon.
Your
Good to
first
connect here.
thoughts on the budget? Thanks for connecting.
Right. See, I think there were a lot of expectations from the individual side on the budget, at least
Yes.
things like increasing the standard deduction, increasing the limits for ATC, or allowing the individuals to set off their house property loss in the old manner, like, whatever is the full loss, instead of restricting it to 200,000 rupees. Somehow the budget seems to be focusing more on the principal aspects, which is around, revenue generation for building the nation, and not on these elements. There was also a huge hue and cry from the market, especially from individuals who were working from home and they were incurring expenditure towards that. So those things were not addressed by the government here, but still, aspects like clarifying once again that expend money is received towards COVID treatment or death of a relative on account of COVID as exempt from tax is a welcome measure. And the much awaited clarification on, the virtual assets supposed to be taxed at the rate of 30%, I would say is a welcome move from the government. That is going to add revenue. It provides certainty to to the individuals who are dealing with this. And what I expect is when the government is tabling this finance bill, they would also be presenting the cryptocurrency bill for approval. Only then the Reserve Bank of India will be able to issue the rupee denominated cryptocurrencies in whichever form, base, and means it is going to come in. So that taxing the cryptocurrencies is a welcome move at the rate of 30% is what I feel. The only thing is, maybe on one side, when the government is generating this 30% tax on cryptocurrencies, which would you add another 37% surcharge to it, they could have done something from the individual's point, because every budget the minister acknowledges the contribution from individuals, and that too from salary taxpayers. Since I feel that there is a small lack in terms of filling that aspect. That is the
Okay.
only take from my end.
Okay. So, Sudhakar, let me understand each of these points with example. Let's begin with the corona impact. Now, every household has got more medical expenses. So, when you talk about, say, Section 80D of income tax, what's the permissible limit for an assessee to claim medical expenses right now? And what was our expectation from this budget?
Right. I think the general expectation was, if you go back in time, 3 years back, the government withdrew the typical medical reimbursement of 15,000 rupees,
Yes.
which everybody would incur. And then they reintroduced the standard deduction of 40,000 rupees at that point of time. So typically the government took back 33,000 rupees along with conveyance and gave you a 40,000 rupees of deduction. Today, the amount of medical expenditure, even the protective gears which people have to take up to manage the corona thing, has gone up manifold. Um, while the nation empathizes people who have suffered, who have gone through this, but there are also costs which are incurred by people who are not being subject to this. Even this, private in hospitals, if you go and take a medical injection for a corona, for a vaccination, right?
Yes. Yes.
So the expectation is that there should have been, if somebody is going to reimburse this, generally employers give this as a reimbursement and they withhold taxes because there is no specific clarity on that, except for this corona death related and COVID maintenance, medical expenditure.
Yes.
There was an expectation that the government will clarify it, which they have done as a part of this COVID related medical treatment and
Right.
COVID related death expenditure. But
Yes.
general work from home expenditure is not addressed, which was expected from the individual side.
Right. Yes. Well, we do express our gratitude to the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, because when she started out her speech at 11 this morning, it was by empathizing with those who had suffered from COVID and also the economic effect because of Corona. But you rightly said, because people have been working from their home, they're using their own laptop, extra expenses of Wi-Fi, office space, some allowance on that front would have been really good.
Yeah, not only that, she acknowledged the mental trauma which people are going through on account of the last 2 years. Salaried class working from home are no exception to it. While some of the other schemes have been announced by the government, typically the expectation from the public at large would be that if some concession is given in this direction, it would be good. So that's the
Right.
point here.
One good news for the state employees was to bring them at parity with the employees of the central government as regards the new pension scheme.
Correct. That's true. Again, while it is good that the government wants to make sure that the center and state are at equilibrium in terms of, because at the end of the day, they are both central and state government employees are working for the public. So it makes sense to, bring a parity, increasing the NPS contribution from 14%, from 10% to 14% for state government. There was a bit of curiosity to check the fine print to see if they would have extended this to the private sector. Yes. Unfortunately, it is there only for state government employees, their limits getting increased to 14, and for private sector employees, still the limit is at 10%, which continues.
Do you see that as an anomaly that probably needs rectification, bring even private employers at par?
I would definitely see it as an anomaly for a couple of reasons, because when you look into the policy measures of the government, right, yes, they are constantly insisting on private-public partnership.
Yes.
Right? And as a result, when you want to develop the nation jointly with private sector and with the government and in the larger interest of the country, there need not be these classifications, perhaps just 3 or 4%, while taxation can still be paid by the private sector employees, at least from a return point of view, they would have made some more gains if this limit is increased to 10 to 14.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, that given the increased stress on public-private participation, why not have parity in terms of such incentives for both? Let's talk about the most fascinating part, the digital currency. So like you said, we were expecting crypto bill could well be tabled in the winter session of the parliament in December. That didn't happen. Can we expect now that in the budget session, for sure, the crypto bill will be tabled?
Yeah, we can expect it, because when you look into the fine print, they are proposing that the 30% tax to take effect from 1st June 22. So perhaps I thought this 2 months could be the time frame for preparing the system. They might have done most of it by now, but for getting the bill approved by the parliament and by the Rajya Sabha and then by the president, table it, prepare rules if it is required for for creating the mechanism for cryptocurrency. The taxation is just an add-on to this portion. In fact, if you look into the fine print, it very clearly says it is not tax of 30% is not just for the Indian rupee denominated cryptocurrency, and government has wide powers to include anything other than an Indian rupee denominated cryptocurrency within its ambit. So in a way, if the government, I would say that the government has got breaks to manage it. If things are going to go avoid or not in the intended direction, perhaps they can apply the brakes and then restrict the number of cryptocurrencies who are going to participate here. That is one welcome measure, I would say.
So did you say that it will be effective 1st of June when we can have India's own digital currency?
See, I think the digital currency taxation will take effect from 1st of June, but the preparation mechanisms could happen even before it. So we have to wait and watch when RBI is going to roll over formally, announce it, make it to the public. We just have to wait for the dates. From a taxation point, it's going to be 1st June.
So because even in the last fiscal, we've seen that in excess of 10 crores Indians have invested in different cryptocurrencies.
Exactly.
Effective 1st of April next financial year, will they be in the tax ambit, or everyone, whether they buy Indian virtual currency or others, it'll be all together on one date?
That's a very good question. As of December, right, if you look into the number of tax returns that were filed in India, it were about something like 5.95 crores or close to 6 crore tax returns that were filed, yes, which is lesser than the number of cryptocurrency users in India, as per the statistics. So, which means, we have to ask a bigger question: are there people who are using cryptocurrencies and not paying taxes? That will be a much bigger question. Hoping that those people are going to file the return within the extended due dates, which is February and January and things like that. All right. I would still feel that the ambiguity around the cryptocurrency taxation has been settled by this budget. People were wondering whether it should be taxable as business income, whether can I claim expenditure that I incur as a deduction, or I have incurred a loss. So, last couple of weeks back, we saw how cryptocurrencies were trading and they were going down south. right? So
Yes.
those ambiguities have been addressed and put to rest by the government. So I think we can expect more action to come here, because there are so many players within the cryptocurrency sector, not just the individuals who are trading it. There are also intermediaries. We have to see how the cryptocurrency bill and the consequential income tax is going to pay way to accommodate everybody and provide the amount of certainty and clarity for all the players in the system.
But Sudhakar, 30% tax rate on the virtual digital asset and no set off allowed. That's a little harsh. No?
Today, the market for cryptocurrencies, all these years has been increasing substantially, except that there was a dip over the last, few weeks or few months, right? I go back to the old days when, the tax rate is going to be 30%. Government would still tax the income from winning from lotteries and horse races at a much higher rate of 40%, right?
Right.
Perhaps to start with, initially, they are looking at cryptocurrencies as a means to generate, contribute to the fiscal deficit. That's why they are looking at a gross basis of 30% tax.
Right.
And it will also be interesting to note how they are going to monitor this, because there is the TDS element involved here at the rate of, 1% or something like that.
Right.
So, I think we are in for an interesting, phase of regulatory movement. I have to see
Right.
how this is going to be handled.
Right. Sudhakar, one last question, quick reaction. Updated return. Does it benefit the SSE, the 2-year window?
I would say that whomsoever has missed to report an income, or whomsoever had an ambiguity to furnish a particular head of income, those people will stand to gain. Because let's say, for example, I thought cryptocurrencies to be, let's say I didn't report any cryptocurrencies in the tax return because I felt that the tax return is not clear, right? In that situation, I can still look at filing a tax return and then reporting my cryptocurrency income there, right? By this process, I can avoid the prosecution mechanism within the Income Tax Act. I can pay the additional tax of 25% or 50%, as the case may be.
Right.
But as a professional, what I feel is, people travel from India overseas. Cryptocurrencies is not the only means where Indians invest to earn income, right? People travel for employment reasons. People also have other investments income from the overseas countries.
Right.
If you know, India tax year is not aligned with many of the countries in the world. We follow April to March. Most of the countries follow Jan to December. Some follow July to June, right? Today, under the current mechanism, the timeline for filing a revised return has been curtailed substantially by the tax authorities. So, if I have to claim a foreign tax credit, I need the overseas tax return. In many cases, it poses a challenge that I may not have that in time.